Welcome to another episode of Third Saturday in October, the SEC tailgating podcast for the rest of us. Be sure to follow us on social media at TSIOPod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us on YouTube as well, where you can see videos of our podcast. And go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com, where you can do all sorts of things like sign up for our virtual tailgate this weekend, sign up for our Pick'em League, get our Tailgate 101 cheat sheet, and a whole lot more. I'm here with my co-host, Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Man, I'm so excited. This may be week 4 for the college football season at large, but in the SEC, we all know this is week 1. So the fact that we are mere hours at this point away from watching the SEC teams take the field, I don't remember the last time I've been this excited.
Well, as we talk about in our interview, the other games leading up to this, it's just scout team. This week we have your friend and mine, Austin Huff from Korked Bats, that funny sports blog, talking about his time playing at Missouri, also his time on radio as well, how he got into that, and just having fun with sports, much like we do here at Third Saturday.
He brought it from start to finish, and much in the same way that his website and his things that he puts out on Twitter and Instagram crack us up all the time. He did the same thing here. So I know that everybody's going to love this interview and be huge fans of Austin Huff and Korked Bats after this. So I am pumped and so thankful that he was able to join us. But we also bring back 2 of our elements and segments from last season. We are going to be picking our picks for the SEC games this week, talking about why we think certain teams are going to win, why we think certain teams are going to not be bringing it this season. And also everybody's favorite segment, Pregame is back in the season. SEC week 1, baby. Let's do this.
Yes. And we get into talking about our digital tailgate. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We can't get together like we'd like, but we can virtually get together and watch 3 games all at once. Let's do it. But let's get into our interview with Austin Huff from Korked Bats. Well, today joining us on Third Saturday in October, we have who I think is one of the funniest guys in sports. He's a graduate of the Missouri School of Journalism, a former Mizzou Tiger football player, a graduate of Brentwood High School outside Nashville, go Bruins, and he has worked in sports radio for Steve Gorman Sports, Jim Rome, ESPN Radio St. Louis. He is the creator of Korked Bats, that funny sports blog. You can hear him every Monday afternoon at 3:45 on 3HL on Nashville's 104.5 The Zone. And I've known this guy almost half my life. Please welcome Austin frickin' Huff.
Man, undeserving of that intro, but I'm just glad that I got a Brown Academy Eagle to say "Go Bruins." That to me is like probably the greatest accomplishment. I'm putting that at the top of my resume from here on out.
There you go. Well, I can go back. We can edit this stuff, right? I can put that at the beginning to just lead it off.
I got a question for you guys. Am I going to understand what's going on in this podcast if I haven't listened to the first or second Saturday in October podcast?
Probably not.
Okay.
It's very much a chronological thing.
All right.
Yeah, we used to be the Saturday in October podcast, but we had a falling out with several weeks. So we've now just narrowed it down to the third.
Well, hey, I hope that your ratings get better to where you become the first Saturday in October. But hey,
and you know,
at least you're not last. At least you're not the 4th Saturday.
That's true.
Yeah. COVID pushed everything back, so everything was canceled the first weekend of October. Yeah. It's just we take what we can get.
This is like when you have a Second Baptist Church in a town, and you're like, "What happened to you guys? You couldn't come up with anything other than second."
Where was the first one? That's what we want to know.
Y'all know Fifth Third Bank? I mean, the Fifth Third. That's 1 2/3. Come on, guys.
That's just terrible math. Yeah. I don't know if I want to go to a bank that's just already bad at math.
Yeah. Right? If I have to do a contraction calculation before I even pull into the parking lot, I'm done.
fifth third. Is that more than what I'm getting?
Am I in the right place? Yeah.
Carry the one.
But anyways, Austin, great to have you on the show. I know on one of your podcasts that that's on hiatus right now, you were the hype man. And so I hope that intro lived up to your expectations.
I was going to say that. Yeah, that's exactly how I would introduce all my guests on when I used to have a podcast called The Show. I mean, I still technically have it. Is like you said, it's on hiatus. Once I got Korked Bats revived, I'm trying to like figure out a way to bring it in under the fold, under the umbrella. But yeah, I would just go in and I would pretty much just rattle off everyone's resume before starting the interview.
Yeah, I mean, I 15 minutes in and you finally get to hear.
Right. You get to hear their voice after me just explaining everything that they've done over their entire career. I found it. People are much more apt to talk to you and like feel better about talking to you if you just stroke their ego as much as possible. And so that's what I would do. I would just be like, this person won a 4th grade spelling bee in their in their life, and then I just go off and then they'd be like, wow, this guy really did his homework. This guy really did his research. I'm gonna be really friendly with this person because I'm a no name whatsoever. So like them talking to me, like I had to earn their trust and their respect. So
yeah,
well, Austin,
tactic.
How did it go? How did Bradley do compared to your epic intros? Would there be anything that he needs to change to make sure that it's as epic as you're known for? The resume was on point. The enthusiasm was on point. And then saying this was my always trick too. I would always find the person's full government name, their first, middle, and last name. And like if I could find that in my research for the interview, then they would be like surprised, but like, oh wow, you found my middle name. Okay, boom. But if I couldn't, I would do what Bradley did, and I would replace their middle name with Freaking, just to give it more hype. Austin Freaking Huff, Bradley Freaking Minigan. Like that's just what I would do to hype them. So yeah, I think he did great. I think it was on point. Austin, you may have another income stream coming in to like just do that, but for $5 a pop, you would intro somebody and then they can put it on their outgoing voicemail or something.
Like the Cameo app, but just
exactly.
for hype men.
Yeah, exactly.
Hypo. I don't know. We'll come up with the name later.
Well, so there's an even bigger revenue stream. Just invent the app or the website or whatever as well. So you can ask somebody to do your hype.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That way I'm just making money on all ends. People are paying for me to hype their products, but then also they have to pay for the app to get me to pay for their. It's smart. I'm glad I came on this podcast.
Yes. Is there any way that we can claim some sort of intellectual property combo with Austin?
I'll give you guys a percentage.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'll give you a fifth third of the percent of all earnings.
Yes. Good callback.
Awesome. Well, Austin, first, just want to kind of talk about your background. First, as a football player, you played at Missouri when it was in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Now in the SEC.
I would say I practiced when it was in the Big 12, but yeah, sure.
Hey, I practiced on the BA football team in high school, so let's.
You're right. Okay, yeah, but played. I mean, I was on the team, sure.
So I mean, I guess now in Najee Harris has the campaign video series on YouTube. He's talking about being in the field house. If he's not in class, he's there. Did you just spend all your time literally with the football guys in the field house talking football?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's wild. Luckily, so I played the first 2 years, and then I went to Mizzou to be a journalism major. I went to Mizzou for their journalism school because it's so good.
Yeah.
But it's very demanding, and so I kind of knew that I probably wasn't gonna be like a 4-year letterman in sports there. So I walked on my freshman year, and played my freshman and sophomore year. And then I just gave it up because, journalism was starting to be more demanding and I just didn't have the time for it. And that's mainly one of the reasons why, is because football, it was like having a full-time job on top of class, because you're there, and even more than a full-time job, because you were probably there 60 to 70 hours a week, just in and around football. And then you would have class, and then you would have homework and everything that you would have to do outside of that. So there really wasn't much free time. And I remember my junior year, the beginning of my junior year, I was just a student for the first time in my life. And it was wild because I was like, there's so much, like, almost didn't know what to do with myself with how much free time I had. Like, I was like, I can not only take a nap a day, I could take multiple naps a day if I wanted.
You can catch up on all the sleep you lost the last couple of years.
Right. True. Now I'm like, okay, now I, oh, this is television. I see. Okay. I've heard about this. So you guys get to watch this, but now I get to partake in it. So yeah, it is wild, man. And it is. And even though like I was a walk-on, they still treat you like you're still demanded of everything that anyone else, the starting players are demanded of, with your time. And almost even actually more so, because walk-ons, we would have more workouts throughout the week than the scholarship players. And so that was almost even more demanding, but it was crazy, but it was something I wouldn't trade in for anything in the world, even though I did get the crap kicked out of me all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this was high school. I was a freshman, 5'2", maybe $120, running scout team tailback.
Yeah.
Against that year, we lost in the state championship, but one of the best defenses in the state. And David Holbert, who was a year ahead of me, ended up getting a scholarship playing at Tennessee before he blew out his knee. Yeah. But I remember running through the hole. I was a lead blocker for the quarterback who's going to fake a dive to the fullback and come around. And I got to block David Holbert, who outweighs me by probably 100 pounds. Yeah. He just gives me the flipper. And I somehow just get knocked back, parallel to the ground, flying back. I don't know how I didn't hit anybody else. And I think just laid out on the ground for I don't know how long.
You're just like, I just need a minute.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute, please.
Can y'all move the ball, 10 yards down the field and just run the next play?
Well, that's what they would do too. Like college practices are so like to the minute, like to the second of like just scheduled and regimented. We had a guy at Mizzou who blew out his ACL, blew out his knee during a practice. And we always used to joke. I mean, it's not funny. It's not funny because it's terrible. But we used to have to joke where a guy could literally die on the field, and the coaching staff would be like, "All right, move the ball up 10 yards. Let's go. Let's keep it like it." And they would just keep it going while the medical staff would like attend to whatever guy is down on the field. And it was wild. And speaking of scout teams, so scout team Mizzou, my freshman year, we had a safety named Jason Simpson, and this is just a wild dude, like just wild. He was just weird. He was just like the best way to describe him. And he like broke his wrist or something midway through the season. So for the last half of the season, he had a cast on his arm. But it was like, obviously like you can't play football in a cast, so they would wrap it up just fully to where he just couldn't feel anything if it did get hit. Yeah. And you would think like, okay, if you have a cast on your arm, you'd take it easy, be careful. You wouldn't want to. No, my dude used it like a club, like he was a caveman, and he would just like whack you over the head with it. He would try and clothesline dudes. Like he used it as a like a military grade weapon. It was just absurd. And I remember just getting hit with that thing, and it was like someone throwing cinder blocks at your head. And it was wild, man. And scout team is interesting. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. No. But it was interesting. It was fun.
I love how during practices, and you're playing against your own team in practices, but how it's used to like essentially get away with anything that illegal that you can do that you would get arrested for elsewhere.
Yeah,
but because you got on the pads or the helmet, it's just like, let's try to murder them. And if they don't, then good. They can start maybe eventually. But
there was, I remember we had a linebacker named Kevin Bacon, or not Kevin Bacon. Oh God, no, Marcus Bacon.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
that
Kevin Bacon.
Everywhere.
Yeah, he is. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, you're in Footloose and Mizzou? That's wild. So
I like to spread my talents around.
Yeah, I loved you in Picture Perfect. Marcus Bacon. I remember I did not have many memories, and this is probably why I remember it. But I juked him out, and he was pissed that I juked him out.
Oh no!
And that was the worst part about scout team was like if you ever had a good play, if you ever had a play go for a touchdown, or if you ran a reverse or you tricked the defense, you'd have to run it back the exact same play over again. Which I don't understand how the defense learns from this because it's coming.
Yeah.
The second time. So it's like, how are you? So we would run it back. And so I duked him out. So obviously the very next play we had to run him back. On that play, just blatant, the most blatant play ever, just grabs my face mask and pulls me down to the ground.
Oh man.
And I was he goes, don't you do that to me again. And probably, swore probably a lot more expletives in that sentence. But yeah. And I was just like, okay, like, wait, like, so you don't want me to be a football player? I don't.
Right.
It was funny, but yeah, no respect for the walk-on guys.
Oh, absolutely not. I remember when I was in 7th grade, I was playing against my best friend who was a year older than me. And I was, like Bradley described himself, just rail thin, hadn't hit puberty yet. And my best friend was 250 pounds, over 6 feet tall. But they, for whatever reason, put me on defense while he played offensive line. And me just trying my hardest, trying to give some effort there so the coaches would notice me. When they said hike, I cut through, went right past my buddy, pushed him out of the way, and tackled the quarterback. Well, again, I'm tiny. He's humongous. Yeah. And what I didn't realize is he was trying to take it easy on me. He thought we had like a rapport, like, I'll take it easy on you. Don't make me look bad. First play, I made him look bad. And then the rest of the practice, I was just dirt, mud, grass everywhere. And the same thing, like, don't you ever do that to me again. Yeah. So I learned a quick lesson, how to lose a friend and how to, be picked on the football field.
Man. That's the tough part about scout team. It's oof.
But hey, it's the reason our football teams are so good, right?
Yo, that's what I always said. Every time they won, it was because of the scout team. That's without question. It's
so when Missouri left the Big 12 and moved to the SEC, as a Missouri grad, how did you feel about that move? Were you like, all right, here we go, or was it kind of like this season taking on Alabama week 1? It's like, I'm not sure we want to get into this. It was
weird. Well, I'll say this. By the time that move happened, I was so annoyed with the Big 12 because the Big 12 was a conference that was so poorly run.
Yeah.
And it still kind of is. It's better now, but it's still not great.
Well, it's the Big 12 and they've got 10 teams?
So. Yeah, now. Yeah, right. That right there should tell you they don't even know how to count. They should get the third bank.
The fifth third conference.
Yeah. They it should be called the Texas-Oklahoma Conference is really what it should be called because everything is run by them. More so Texas than even Oklahoma, even though Oklahoma's been the better team for the last decade.
Yeah.
But it is run by those two schools, and it always was. And it was annoying, and that's the reason Nebraska and Colorado left. The grass is greener. The grass is greener on the other side, sure, but when you're in the Big 12, the grass is always greener because your grass is brown or burnt orange, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
There's no revenue or there wasn't any revenue sharing at the time. There was just better reasons to be in other conferences. So at first, Mizzou was rumored to go to the Big 10 with Nebraska. But then Nebraska made the jump, and then Colorado made the jump to the Pac-12. And Mizzou was kind of left hanging, and it was like, oh, well, this sucks. And Mizzou and Texas A&M were both rumored to leave somewhere. And I was glad that when Mizzou did leave, they left with another school from the Big 12 and to join the SEC. And I was glad to join the SEC because, I mean, it's a great conference, not just from a football aspect. It's just a great conference of how it's run and the things that they do. And so I was glad to finally be a part of now, look, there's still people, which to me it's absurd. The people that are like, Missouri needs to go back to the Big 12. Like, I look, Mizzou hasn't been great. And I'll be the first one to admit that. Basketball.
No, I'm one of those guys because y'all came in and you started beating Tennessee immediately.
That's
I'm
the
like,
thing.
no,
It's like,
go back.
people are like, Mizzou can't run with the SEC. It's like immediately when Mizzou came to the SEC, they won the SEC East in 2 of their first 3 years in the conference. So it's like they were playing in the SEC championship in 2 of the first 3 years when literally half of the SEC still has yet to ever even play in an SEC championship.
Right.
So it's, I would say that, the whole, like, they can't run. Yeah, they can. Have they recently? No, they've gone through some hard years, just as any program has. Arkansas is going through some rough times, like Ole Miss, every team outside of the Alabamas and the dynasties and the LSUs, and the Georgias, like Tennessee's gone through some rough years.
Yeah.
Like every team goes to that. Mizzou's going through it right now. So I'm glad that they're in the SEC. I enjoy it. It sucks week in and week out because it's hard.
and this year more than ever because it's SEC schools every week. And for Missouri, starting out with Alabama.
Yeah.
It's just, ugh.
But that's the trade-off. It sucks because they got screwed in this scheduling, in this COVID scheduling. I don't know why they did not have Alabama on their schedule before COVID.
No.
But Mizzou has benefited. If you look at what the Mizzou football program looks like now, whereas it did in its final year in the Big 12, it's head and shoulders different. I mean, just look at the facilities, look at everything, and look at the recruits that they're bringing in. They're built differently. They were built for the Big 12 back then, and now they're built better for the SEC, which I've been happy to see, and I'm glad that they continue to go that way, and excited for Eli Drinkwitz, and not just for his name.
Yeah.
That was a fun name to say.
Coach. It is, right?
all name team right there.
Yes.
So, hey, Austin, when growing up, oftentimes you pull for a team, as a football fan, and growing up playing. But oftentimes, there's a lot of people that they don't get offers to the school that they have rooted for their entire life. What's your story as far as who did you root for growing up before you played at Mizzou? What does that look like now? Are you now a diehard Mizzou fan, or do you still kind of keep your allegiances in 2 different places?
I grew up a massive Penn State fan, which is wild. You want to talk about a team that went through some rough years. Goodness gracious. Awful stuff there. So I grew up a Penn State fan. And I was diehard. I was like the kid that would like go to school. I went to school obviously amongst Tennessee fans left and right, but I would be the kid in like Penn State socks and underwear and not that they would see my underwear. I don't know that I should have brought that up. That was weird. I was diehard, and I did always dream of like playing in Happy Valley, playing at Beaver Stadium. Always wanted to, prior to everything that went down and prior to him passing, obviously, wanted to play for Joe Paterno because I thought he was awesome. And then as I got older, I realized, okay, well, I need to focus on what I want to do career-wise, and that was kind of what led me to Mizzou. And then I could have played like it. There were a couple of D3 schools that offered. I wasn't. I mean, obviously, I'm like a white running back. I can't imagine I had the offers just flooding in. I'm not a Christian McCaffrey, if you will. So I did have the opportunity. The coaches at Mizzou said, "Yeah, you can walk on here if you come here." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll just do that. I'll just walk on and go there." But yeah, and I still do. I do pull for Penn State. But yeah, I'd say I'm more. I think just the 4 years, and even my freshman year when I was at Mizzou when I was playing on the team. That was the year Penn State went 10-1 or 11-1 and went to the Orange Bowl and lost one game, and I was going nuts because that was like Penn State had been bad for like the 4 years prior to that. And so I was going nuts. And so I was probably my freshman year, I was probably a bigger Penn State fan than I was a Mizzou fan, even though I was on the team. But now I would say, now I'm the truest of true sons. I am all in on Mizzou. So
yeah, you've got some invested interest now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I got abused by them so bad in practice that it's just like, I cling to them. It's almost like a Florence Nightingale effect.
Right. Yeah.
So you went to Mizzou for journalism. Is radio what you wanted to do career-wise? Because I know you got into radio after college.
Yeah. So shadow day of my senior year at in high school, Brentwood High School, shout out, God bless and go Bruins. I went and I shadowed just by chance. It was really random because I didn't have any inkling to this career or anything. I just had a friend of a friend who hooked me up with this opportunity for career shadow day. I shadowed George Plaster, and he was they had just launched 104.5 The Zone. Yeah. And I sat in on the show with him and Willie Donick and Darren McFarland. And I just like absorbed everything. And I was like, this is insane that these guys, like, this is their job. They sit around and talk about sports. They take phone calls. I had no idea. Obviously I knew of sports talk radio and I had listened to some of it, but I had no idea like this could have been like something you could choose to do with your career. And after doing that day, I was like, okay, I'm going balls to the wall. I'm going all in. I want to get into that industry. And so I went to Mizzou for journalism school just to get the best broadcasting degree. Cause part of me was also like, well, maybe I wanted to do TV. Maybe I want to one day be on Sports Center or something. But the more I went through the journalism program, the less I liked broadcast side of sports. Like being on TV, it didn't appeal to me because it's so rigid with your time. Radio is a lot more loose and a lot more fun. And so I was like, I just went all in on radio. And so over the summers I would go back and I would intern at the Zone. And then after graduating, I moved back to Nashville and was able to get a couple of jobs in radio there. And the rest is history. So
that's cool.
And at what point in this did you launch Korked Bats?
I actually launched Korked Bats in college. It was me and a buddy of mine. We, in July 31st, 2008, was the day we launched. It was just a blog spot. It was corked with a C, korked-bats.blogspot.com, which is a mouthful. I didn't, there was something about that name that I was like, you know what? I don't want to spend 45 seconds saying the name of my website every time I say my website. So we eventually, a couple months in, we eventually changed it. Korkedbats.blogspot with a C was taken, but Korked Bats with a K was not taken. So we said, all right, let's try Korked Bats with a K. Cause we're a funny sports blog,
snappy.
It's quirky. Yeah. It's like, who spells corked with a K? We do. Cause we're funny.
We're crazy with a K.
Right. You don't know. I don't think you can run with us here at korkedbats.com. So we changed it. And then, about 6 months in, my buddy, he was like, I'm going to give this up. He gave it up, but I kept it going. And it really was just a thing that we started for fun, just to make our friends in college laugh. And, but it kept getting more and more popular and more people were seeing it and reading it. And obviously I was in Missouri at the time. I had people from home in Nashville saying like, oh, I read your blog. And I was like, okay. And then, the first, I think like the first year in, or maybe a year and a half in, we ESPN Sports Nation with Michelle Beadle and Colin Cowherd back in the day.
Yeah.
They chose us as our site of the day. And so then by that point it was like, okay, well now we can't stop this. Like, and I was having fun doing it too. So we just kept it going. And it was always kind of a just a thing I did on the side to pursue radio. And then as of Jan 1 of this year, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go all in and try and make this the job. And so that's what I've been doing, and just slowly growing, getting our name out there, and becoming an entity, I guess.
Well, I've loved watching it because I remember when I couldn't remember when exactly it launched, but I remember finding it early. It's like, oh, this is cool. This is funny. I like it. Because here at Third Saturday, we know that stats can sometimes get in the way. Who needs stats? Let's just have fun.
Sure.
And that is exactly what Korked Bats has done. Mm-hmm. But then getting to see just over the last 9 months, 8-9 months, getting to see how, y'all have really poured into it, because now you've got the Junk Drawer podcast where it's just an hour or two of, we'll talk about sports. If it goes off in another direction, we'll kind of follow it.
I think we talked about staring contests this week. But that was actually stemmed from the Falcons hands team. So it's sports based, but we'll go wherever.
And I know you're a big fan of The Bachelor, and it's like sports, The Bachelor, how these go together. It doesn't matter.
The Bachelor to me is sports for mostly a female demographic, but for some guys that get roped into watching the show too, it can be sports. So we do cover it on Korked Bats with a weekly recap of every time, and it's starting up here soon, so I'm excited.
I know you are.
Well, there are a lot of parallels there. If you think about it, you start following a person. Like I'm a Scott T fan for life.
Right?
He's got to get her. And so you start pulling for people every week, and when your team loses, you're like, that's bull. Come on, man. So absolutely a sport. Just
I'll never forget.
Traditional.
I'll never forget that famous upset when Scott T didn't get the rose, and it was like the most wild. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like he was my sleeper pick this year. And they do look. It's on every week. It's competitive, and now there's Bachelor fantasy. Like you can actually play fantasy Bachelor. I don't. I promise.
Oh sure. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, we talk about the fantasy coming up for the new season on Third Rose in October. So we keep things moving and grooving here. So we're Bachelor fans as well.
No, trust me, I'm already subscribed to the Third Rose in October.
Oh, I know. I see who I send those emails to.
Oh man, but so you also, I think there's another podcast too that's a Korked Bats podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Is it the Cineboys?
Yeah, the Cineboys. Yeah, so that's just a movie podcast hosted by four guys. It's a fun listen because it's just four dudes that are friends that love movies, and they just talk about it, and they do creative stuff on that podcast each week. It's a lot of fun because they'll do like movie drafts, like build the perfect movie where you'll draft a genre, you'll draft an actor, a co-star and a director and all of these other different things. They'll do they did a comedy movie draft just recently where they each got to pick just of any comedy ever you get to draft. And like if you choose a movie that's not necessarily a comedy that other people that the other guys they're like that's not a comedy, you can challenge it and they get it's just a fun. They're awesome. They're great guys you should, if you love movies. I love movies, and so I listen to them all the time. Not just because they're Korked. I was listening to them before they even came under the Korked Bats umbrella. Yeah, so it's fun.
Well, that's awesome. I'm just so excited for what Korked Bats has become. Excited to see where it's going, because if you don't follow Korked Bats, at least on Twitter is my social media of choice, and the tweets that you have, whether it's Thursday night football, Monday night football, just throughout the week, different developments. The Hard Knocks episode of Tyrod Taylor getting stabbed in the lung. What I mean, y'all are talking about it on Thursdays, Instagram Live.
Yeah, family lunch. Yeah, our little IG live show that we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a painkiller shot, I guess, in the back, and you miss and hit the lung.
Yeah. AD brought up a good point on family lunch this week. Was like, how long is that needle? My goodness,
right?
Like, geez, like it was coming out with like a needle like this long, and he's like, all right, let's. Like, what are you like? Are you drilling for oil? How do you puncture someone's lung?
Yeah, but that I mean, one of my favorite things that you've done recently was break down Derrick Henry's 99-yard run against
that was
the
a big
Jags
one. That thing blew up. Yeah.
So I mean, you've got the Music City Massacre T-shirts on Korked Bats merch store. Human rhinoceros, that may be the next T-shirt. But
we should. I should make some human rhinoceros T-shirts just with Derrick Henry's face with like a horn sticking out his nose or something. The Derrick Henry, and that is another thing about Korked Bats. It's the #1 Derrick Henry fan site on the internet. It is
good. Yes.
Yeah, I love Derrick Henry. I love him as much as any straight man can love another straight man. Like that is, he is so awesome. And I just love to watch. And maybe it's because I was a running back and not big like him. Yeah. Maybe that's why I enjoy it so much. But yeah, so I was like, well, I was looking for like a play to do for a breakdown, and this was before the football season started.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go back in the past all of our Derrick Henry, because I'd breaking down other Derrick Henry plays in the past, the Earl Thomas stiff arm, his touchdown pass in the playoffs, and then a random run he had against the Patriots. And those have all done well. Our Derrick Henry breakdown videos do really well. And so I was like, okay, I need another Derrick Henry video. And I was like, how have I not done the 99-yard touchdown run yet? Like,
right. There's so much content there.
It's absurd how that is an NFL highlight.
Yes.
If he was,
I love
Derrick
the
Henry,
commentary. Go ahead, sorry.
He couldn't have had that much success against the Brentwood Blaze. Like that is, he treated the Jaguars like children, and it was so funny to me. I didn't even have to add commentary. I could have just shown the play, and it would have gotten laughs.
I never thought about it before, but watching the commentary where he reaches behind him to grab a defender only to throw him across his chest.
He's like, get up here. He's like, where do you think you're going? And he swings him around in front of him. It's absurd. And that happened on a football field, on a professional football field.
Yeah. It's like, you can't keep up with me. Let me help you along.
Yeah. He's like, oh, you trying to catch me? Here, let me he freaking like it was what's the not the shot put or the javelin, what's that rope where they swing it around at the Olympics? That's what he did with a human body during a football play.
Yeah. I mean,
this is during a game. This isn't a practice where you're just trying for fun to like get.
This wasn't against a scout team.
Right. Yes, exactly. You're not trying to get bonus points for your buds. You're actually running down the field with the ball in your hand.
Right.
And you decide to see how far you can throw a man.
Have I been flung around like that before? Of course. All right.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But a professional athlete should not be saying that.
Right. So, someone who's getting paid millions of dollars to tackle should not be tackled himself by an offensive player that's supposed to elude tackles.
You're getting paid millions of dollars to not have that done to you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do that to him. You're the defensive guy.
Man.
It's as if Derrick Henry said, "Go get me some popcorn," and just threw it into the stand.
I'm hungry.
I absolutely love it. So when you're watching all these sports, do you have just like 16, 17 screens set up at home? How do you consume
great question.
all these sports? Because, for instance, we're doing a virtual tailgate this weekend.
Oh, nice.
And there are 3 games going on. I don't know how I'm going to watch who plays first. Georgia takes on now I'm blanking. Tennessee plays South Carolina, and Vandy and Texas A&M. But I don't know how I'm going to watch 3 games. And, I mean, all day there's just college football. How do you keep up with it all?
Saturdays in the fall are wow. Well, especially now because college football started like 3 weeks ago. But let's be honest, college football starts this weekend.
Yeah, this is week 1.
It's already started?
Right. That was like the appetizer to the main course.
Those were just the scout teams, man.
Right. Exactly. The SEC starts this week, which means college football starts this week. And I'm excited. This is the time of year where the toggle button or the last button on your remote just gets worn out. Like it's like if it has like the logo for like the back arrow on the button, it will be gone by the end of the season, just based off of the next few Saturdays.
Yeah. Comcast, I need a new remote. I don't know which button to push.
If you guys could just send me a new last button, that's really all I need. I can't see where it is on the remote anymore because of it is worn down. This is to answer your question, do I have 17 screens? I wish. My gosh. I wish I had that set up the kid from Blank Check had.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Where it's just a wall full of screens. That's
just like the security rooms. I don't know if they're like this in real life, but in the movies.
Yeah.
Or Batman Begins.
Right. Oh yeah.
Just all the screens so he can see everything in the world,
Yeah.
and it's just a dark room. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, when Alfred was just basically just spying on everyone in Gotham.
Yes.
It's pretty creepy there, Alfred. But yeah,
that's why he had to live underground.
Yeah.
His habits were
right.
He was an ne'er-do-well.
Yeah, I do wish I wish I had that that setup. But currently I have one TV. Well, currently, so I've got like an office now.
Moving on up. Yeah.
As you can see from my zany, overly cliche bobbleheads behind me. That's how you can tell I work in sports, because I got an abundance of bobbleheads and sports stuff on a shelf behind me. It is so cliche. But so we converted like one of our guest rooms. Not to brag, we have multiple guest rooms. We're pretty rich.
Whoa!
We converted it into this like office for me, and so I've got a desk in here now, and I've got a TV set up in here, which is awesome. I've got a second TV behind me, but it's not set up because I have to figure out a way. It's like, do I sneak and buy an extra cable box and not tell my wife about it? Or do I just like figure out, because I've got the PlayStation set up on this one so I can stream, shows on that. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's hard because there are a lot of times where there are multiple. Just the other night, I missed the ending of the Lakers Nuggets game because I was watching Seahawks Patriots, and I was really upset. If I wasn't on Twitter, I wouldn't have even realized that anything happened. And so I flipped over, and sure enough, they're doing the post-game interviews, and I'm like, dang it. Like that would have been an opportunity where it would have been perfect for multiple screens. I think if you do what I do or like what we do, I think you do need at least 2 screens up simultaneously, at least. Because then you could just toggle one, and then you could easily watch 3 sports at once. But yeah, right now I'm just working with the one, so I'm kind of handicapping myself.
Maybe you can call Buffalo Wild Wings and see if maybe you could rent a table for a couple of nights a week.
I like that idea.
Set up with a computer, a microphone, and just go to town.
Right. And then I can, if a game's ending, I can hit one of those buttons to make the game continue.
Get the field goal post moved to the side or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Be like, oh man, I don't want to go home yet. Bam.
Well, Austin, before we let you go, thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you on social media?
Just at Austin Huff is my personal stuff. My Instagram is kind of boring. I just post stuff about my family. But yeah, my family's pretty boring. And hopefully my mom's not watching. Check out my Twitter. My Twitter's I'm more active on Twitter at Austin Huff. And then just follow all things Korked Bats. That's where actually I spend probably most of my time, just with we have a couple of other writers and a couple other guys that we're trying to build this thing and grow it. And yeah, you can kind of be like that one guy who like discovered Mumford and Sons before everyone else. You know, you can be like, yeah, well, I knew them before they got all mainstream and poppy. So yeah, so hop on now before we go mainstream and poppy, because we will.
Right? Yeah.
It's a matter of when.
Yeah.
It's
We
still
will
at this
sell
point
out
where
fully.
we're
gonna be doing. We're gonna
kicking that bass drum.
Yeah, we're gonna be like Imagine Dragons making like intro songs for ESPN College Football Saturday Night. All right, like you're gonna be like, gosh, I liked it when they were just like an indie band.
Yeah, but before they were brought up.
Right, yeah. You brought us so much joy over the years, though. Back when Bradley and I used to work together for 4 years and traveled all over the country. And we would just like take turns driving this vehicle across the country to all these conferences that we would go to. And he would just sit over in the passenger seat when it wasn't his turn to drive and just like read off hilarious tweets from Korked Bats. So you have brought so much laughter to our lives. So
that's awesome.
Thank you for continuing to go. And it's awesome to hear that you're doubling down now.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the support. I know it's definitely to get to where we are right now, which is still nothing special or nothing big, but I do appreciate all of the support from people, everyone that's, from as little as clicking on a website to even just liking a tweet. Like it's been every little bit counts, and we've definitely been very appreciative of it. And just trying to, bring some levity to a world that has none left, I think.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah.
Well, thank
you, man,
so much.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And you guys enjoy it. I can't wait to now listen to the 4th Saturday in October podcast, because I'll understand what's going on now.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming. Thanks, buddy.
Well, how awesome is Austin Huff? So glad he could join us today.
That just sounds like a perfect nickname for him already, because it sounds like Austin. Austin Awesome Huff.
Right. Well, his middle name is freaking Austin freaking Huff, but maybe he can make the petition to change it to Awesome Austin Huff.
Yeah, if you combined awesome and freaking, it's like it's gilding the lily. It's a little too much. So I maybe we should just keep it a freaking. That kind of says it all too.
Yeah, but be sure to follow him on social media at Austin Huff, and follow his blog at Korked Bats. Funny stuff.
Love him.
Really great as you're watching the game to be following them, because they've always got clever things to say. While you're on social media, though, specifically Twitter, be sure you're following us at TSIO Pod, because we're getting into the tailgating treat season.
Oh yeah,
Chris, tell me about what we're doing with tailgating treats.
All right, so this is one of the things that I am most excited about this year. 2020 has been a dumpster fire. COVID has just, everything is like, what is even the world out there? But I know that looking forward to the football season, I was going to get to enjoy my Saturdays with some delicious treats, and I always like having food all around me. But then when the idea of the possibility that the football season wasn't even going to happen, I was like, the one thing that I was looking forward to is now in jeopardy. But since we now are in week 1 of SEC football this week, we want to kick off and on Twitter talk about the shit.
You got to pull it up. This is a mouthful, and and I do mean that in every way possible.
So we want you to join us this whole season. Every week we're going to have a different way for you to participate in our official TSIO Topple the Tailgate Tournament of Treats. Now,
that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. And for those of you counting, other than the and of, which we don't count because we're grammar appropriate here.
Right.
That's 5 T's in a row, or the quintuple T bracket tournament. So every week we're going to come up with a different category about tailgating foods, treats, delicious beverages, whatever they may be. And we're going to run a poll on social media, and we want you to follow along. And the winners of each of those polls will compete against each other at the end of the season. And so we want you to compete. We want you to brag on your favorite thing. But so watch for this week launching the TSIO Topple the Tailgate Tournament of Treats starting this week in SEC football. Week 1 there, week 1 for the bracket tournament too.
Yeah, the quintuple T, the QT for short, because
yes,
quintuple T. I have to really practice that.
It is fun to say though.
It is fun to say. So this week, our treat of choice is going to be dips. So
Yes.
we're going to be voting on what dip is your favorite. So go to Twitter, find that at TSIO Pod, vote on your favorite dip for tailgates, and we'll announce the winner on next week's show. We'll also announce the next category for voting at that time as well. But man, my mouth is watering already. Just
mine too. I just finished lunch and now I'm already hungry again for dips.
Right. Well, we got to keep moving on because the world keeps turning. We can't slow down. Pick'em League is starting back up. So if you haven't joined our Pick'em League, go to thirdsaturdaynoctober.com. Sign up for the Pick'em League. We're doing something new this year. We're going through CBS Sports. So it's going to be great. I've already filled out my picks. It was so easy. But go there, sign up. We'll email you reminders to fill out those picks every week.
If you already have a CBS account, it's as easy as just logging in, joining our league, and then making your picks. But if you haven't set up one, it's pretty easy. I mean, I think in less than 3 minutes, you have filled out everything you need to have an account on CBS Sports. So that way you can join the league and participate with us. We're going to do it every week, and we're only going to be picking SEC games. Yeah. So I think it makes sense for the third Saturday in October SEC tailgating podcast for the rest of us to really pick those. So I like that idea that because we've got an all SEC competition 10-week season this year to just really focus in on those. So and that way you're really picking the teams that you love anyway. Yeah. So I can't wait. I've already made my picks as well. I see people coming in to the league. So going to be competing for some fun prizes and bragging rights. So join us in the Pick'em League this year. I can't wait.
Well, and as Austin was talking, everybody else is scout team. So, you're picking the real games. But let's go through these picks. Also, I'll just say I signed up for the CBS Sports account because I didn't have one yet. But Chris, you've done this for a few seasons now, and have loved the way CBS lays it out. But it was very easy for me to sign up, get started, downloaded the app, made the picks right there. So I think it's going to be very, very user friendly for our listeners as well. But let's start making some picks, because it's time for college football.
Oh, week 1 SEC, baby. I'm so excited.
I'm dreaming of the wings and the pizza and everything I'm going to have, but I got to wait on all that for our pregame segment. But let's talk football.
Yeah, so let's start off with actually what will essentially be the last game of this slate on Saturday, which is Vandy versus Texas A&M. That's going to be over on the alternate SEC network channel at 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern. Let's see, it looks like that right now the line is negative 30.5 for Texas A&M. Do you think that they're going to score 30.5 points more than the Commodores?
Well, I thought with this all SEC schedule there would be no cupcakes, but we are starting with dessert first.
Good point.
Vandy's got a lot of players sitting out, opting out, but I do think they can keep it within 30. I sure hope they can. So I went with Vandy to cover the spread on this one.
Yeah, it's interesting that, again, like you're saying, the Commodores, So, the Commodores, you're right. They have had a lot of opt-outs this year. They are perennially a team that is made fun of in football in the SEC. So it's difficult. They are going to have some struggles this year. But 30.5, that's a difficult number because it's going to be everybody's first week. A lot of people haven't played in a long while.
Yeah.
And so to think that Texas A&M could put up 30.5 on them, I think it'll be close, but I'm also picking Vandy. I don't think that Texas A&M will cover the spread.
Well, I think that's just a lot of points.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Next, we have Kentucky versus Auburn. I believe that's played at Auburn. Auburn, a 7.5-point favorite. Where are you going with that, Chris?
You know what? It's funny. Just traditionally, I was going with Auburn because they're Auburn. And as much as they're my in-state rival, being a Bama fan, I still have respect for them. And again, Kentucky is one of those teams where, except for the last couple of years, they've perennially, it's really hard to say that word, been a team that you can make fun of when it comes to football. Basketball, they'll mop the floor with every SEC team, except for maybe Florida some seasons. But football, it's difficult. But I've heard so much in the last week that said that Kentucky may have an early upset over Auburn. I've even heard some people thinking that Auburn would be beaten this weekend by Kentucky by double digits. So that's difficult because I've not seen anybody play, and it's hard. But it's hard to root against tradition in the sense that I would have, if I just looked at it on paper and everything else were equal, I would have said that'd be an easy Auburn win. So I'm going to stick with my assumption. But hearing some other people that know what they're talking about is giving me pause. So how about you?
Well, I went with Kentucky. I think they're good. I think Auburn still wins it, but I think Kentucky keeps it within a game.
Got a close one. Okay.
I hope they keep it within a game. I think they keep it within a touchdown.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And that's over on SEC Network too. And that will start out the day at 11 Central, 12 or noon Eastern time. What about Florida Ole Miss?
Florida Ole Miss, I've got Florida. They're a 14.5-point favorite. I think they'll win by more than 2 touchdowns. That's another morning game. It's on ESPN. Lane Kiffin's first game at Ole Miss back as a head coach in the SEC. Yeah. He's an offensive genius. I'm not sure what he can do on defense with Ole Miss against Florida's offense. Kyle Trask is back. I mean, Dan Mullen has some good offenses, so we'll see how that matchup plays out. What about you?
Yeah, I think you took the words out of my mouth. I think that Florida takes this one. I don't know if they'll win by much more than 14.5, but I do pick Florida for the win there.
And then we start getting into the afternoon games. We've got Mississippi State versus LSU. LSU a 16.5-point favorite. How you leaning there, Chris?
Okay, so I decided to go for the SEC game of the week over on CBS with this matchup, Mississippi State and LSU, because of some of the people sitting out for LSU and everything that they've had to do to reload since last season. Such an epic season, maybe one of the best, if not the best, college football team that I've seen just go start to finish is amazing. But the hangover effect, I'm thinking may play into the game. I don't think that they will lose. I think that LSU will win, but I don't think that they will cover. So I'm actually thinking Mississippi State and Mike Leach's debut to at least make it close enough to where the LSU doesn't cover. What about you?
Well, I went with LSU. I think Mike Leach is. I think he knows how to coach against the SEC. I mean, you see SEC teams when you've coached in a Power 5 program for a long time, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be able to keep up with LSU step for step. So I think LSU can win by 17 points there in that CBS SEC game of the week.
You know, that's a good call. That was kind of a toss-up for me because, Mike Leach and the air raid offense, I'm excited to see what he's going to build at Mississippi State. I don't think that all the pieces will be in place in just a solid game for them. But I'm hoping that they keep it a close game and a fun game for the first CBS SEC game of the week. So, yeah.
Well, and the point spreads, I mean, that's why it's so tricky, because if it were 14 points, I'd say, LSU, no problem. Yeah. If it were 20 points, I'd say, I don't know. I may be going with Mississippi State on this one. But
yeah.
Where it lies at 16.5, I'm going with LSU.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm deciding that I'm trying to lean less on my knowledge this year because everything is out the window. And taking some early shots at maybe, if I get lucky, of pulling out of the pack on our Pick'em League. So that's my shot right there. So I hope it's not used against me if you listen to this and then go make your picks. But regardless, I'm going to pick Mississippi State in a whim.
Well, then just a few minutes after that on the SEC network, Georgia's kicking off against Arkansas. Georgia is a 26.5-point favorite. What are you feeling?
Well, as much as I would like all of these new coaches to come in, like Mike Leach or Lane Kiffin or Drinkwitz at Missouri, or what they've got going in Arkansas, I would love to just cheer on all the new coaches, except I'm not going to do it with Mizzou. Sorry, Austin, but against my Bama boys, I'm not choosing that. But I think Georgia has something to prove, and they smoke them. So I'm taking Georgia and the points. I think that they'll beat them by 26.5 or more.
Yeah, I think Georgia's defense is stout. Their offense has some question marks. We'll see how potent they can be this year. But I've still got Georgia winning by 27 or more.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that Georgia's defense may have the opportunity to score as many points as Arkansas's offense. So
true.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So even if Georgia's offense needs a couple weeks to warm up, I think the defense has got them.
So then, Chris, we've got Alabama versus Missouri. Your Crimson Tide against Austin's Tigers.
Yep, and playing in that stadium that's right behind you.
Yeah, I've got the Missouri Stadium behind me. I just wanted to make Austin feel at home.
That's great.
But how are you feeling about this point spread?
First of all, I just want to echo your comment. I do think that we need to trade out some mascots for something other than tigers. There are way too many of those in the SEC. We are nowhere near an actual habitat that a tiger would live in the wild. I don't know why we have to have them surrounding us in the SEC.
Except the tiger that got loose in Knoxville.
Oh, that's true.
Just saying. So maybe Tennessee is the only one who needs to be the Tigers.
True. And whoever Carol Baskins pulls for, I guess that could officially be a Tiger thing.
So could we start a petition for LSU to leave the nickname the Tigers behind and officially become the LSU Bayou Bengals?
Ooh, yeah, okay. So they are not known for the Tigers, but the Bengals.
Yeah,
I like that.
The Bayou
it rolls off the tongue anyway.
I mean, you got Raging Cajuns, you got Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Bayou Bengals is, I think that could catch on. I mean, it's already their kind of alternate mascot, but I think LSU Bayou Bengals could be it.
Yeah. Yeah, if we can get a few less Tigers and maybe even a few less Bulldogs in the SEC, we have a bit more variety. But you know what? Even with their name, I don't think that they're going to have enough to take down the mighty elephants of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And believe me, when I say elephants, it's weird coming out of my mouth because the Crimson Tide and the elephants, I've heard the stories. I've read it. It's my team, and I'm still confused with how many mascots or stories that we have. So the $1 Million Band will play for the Crimson Tide, which are actually elephants. Okay, all right. But I still think that even as confusing as all that is, Alabama pulls it out and covers the spread. What about you?
Well, I mean, I don't know what it is about Alabama schools. You got the Crimson Tide, which are elephants, and you've got the Auburn Tigers that say War Eagle.
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked about this before. I'm not smart enough to get it. I love
you, Alabama. I grew up half my life spent there. and I'm confused of how we do nicknames and mascots in my home state.
But I do think Alabama covers the spread. I think I saw that Nick Saban is 12-1 against the spread in week 1.
Wow.
I don't bet against Nick Saban often, and I'm not going to do it today. So I'm going with Bama by 29 points.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me for them to be 35 past Missouri.
I agree. I think I'm going to hold up this for you. Those of you watching on YouTube, you can see me. I'm doing a sign language R. I'm going to hold this up all season long. And what this stands for is I'm not crossing my fingers that we win. I'm just reminding us that the R stands for revenge season, baby.
Yeah, it was.
So when I pop out that R, I think that's why we need to score 100 points on every team if we can.
I know somebody from Alabama's camp needs to come out and say we're going to score a lot of points. It worked for Joe Burrow and the LSU Bayou Bengals last year.
I love that we call them the Bayou Bengals, even if they don't call themselves that.
Yeah, I'm not calling them that, the other mascot anymore. They are the Bayou Bengals.
Right, I love it. Okay, so we have one game left, and it's your beloved Tennessee Vols playing over on the SEC network starting at 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, playing, which I think this may be my most fun game of the week. I'm most excited about this one, playing South Carolina. It looks like that right now, it looks like that Tennessee has a 3.5-point edge. What do you think, my friend?
I think Tennessee wins this. I think they win it by a touchdown, maybe 10 points. Everybody's saying it could be a close game. I mean, that's what bettors are thinking. I think Tennessee comes out wanting to prove, hey, our winning streak at the end of last season wasn't a fluke. We've lost some guys. Cade Mays still, as of this recording, has not been approved by the SEC to play this season, though the NCAA has said go ahead. The SEC has to prove it. So not sure if he's even going to make the trip. But all that being said, I think Tennessee's O-line is one of the best in the SEC. Their running backs are fantastic. Little question mark about their third running back. QB play is going to be – we'll see how that goes. Wide receivers are going to be young. But defense, there's a lot of talent coming back on defense. I think that Jeremy Pruitt and company figure out the defense, and I don't feel too worried about that. So I'm going with Tennessee to cover the 3.5-point spread over South Carolina in South Carolina.
So, they are in South Carolina, and that's an interesting thing to take note of, except for the fact that with limited or no students or fans in the stands, it's going to be I wonder how much that's going to play into a home field advantage, other than the fact that you get to sleep in your bed and not have to sleep in a hotel room the night before the game. I've got a thought here. If South Carolina loses against Tennessee, then the very next week they go and they play the Gators. And then they have what some would consider a lower difficulty week playing the Commodores. And then they come right back 2 weeks in a row and play the Auburn Tigers and the LSU Bayou Bengals. With that, it's looking like within the first week, if they lose to Tennessee, within the first month of SEC play, if they lose to Tennessee, they could potentially be 1-3 going into their open date on Halloween.
I love it.
So I wonder if that's going to give them some more incentive, give Will Muschamp some incentive of trying to keep his job at this point. And so I'm interested to see how the Gamecocks come out ready to play. But having even said all that, I still think the Vols are going to be victorious, at least against the spread. And, well, I'll say they'll be victorious against the spread and victorious in the game. So I'm picking Tennessee, even though I think that we may see something interesting with South Carolina because, again, if they go down week 1, they're probably going down week 2 and week 4 and week 5. So that is a very difficult situation to put themselves in, being 1-3 or 4 within the first month of SEC play. So with that in mind, I'm very interested in watching this game and excited. And I think it could be a dogfight, even though there's no bulldog to be found in this game. I think, the Volunteers.
There is a blue tick hound. There will be a blue tick hound.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Okay, so the dogfight, going against the Gamecock, it's going to be difficult. And the Gamecocks are going to make it interesting. But I believe that in the end, the Volunteers pull it out and cover the spread.
Well, Chris, I know you've got plans for your wife's birthday on Saturday, but I will be on a virtual tailgate for our TSIO Nation family. You can sign up for that at thirdsaturdaynoctober.com. Join our virtual tailgate. We'll be starting about 5:30 Central because Tennessee, South Carolina, Vandy, Texas A&M all kick off at 6:30 Central, but Alabama, Missouri kicks off at 6. So we'll kick off about 30 minutes before kickoff.
Nice.
Before kickoff. Yeah. So join us. You can get that link by going to thirdsaturdaynoctober.com and signing up there. Just want to give a shout out to that so that you can join us as well. And now we just got to talk about pregame.
For the first time this season, officially, we can run that pregame music, baby.
Tailgate, man cave, living room, pregame, burgers, ribs, chicken wings, chip and dip, pregame, scotch and a lot of IPA, Coca-Cola, pregame, slaying dogs, EA, cornhole, pregame. How you gonna watch?
So we ran it a couple weeks ago because the Titans were playing on Monday Night Football.
True.
And, we love the NFL, but this is the real week one for us.
Yes.
So, Chris, you're not watching the game. What are you doing? I mean, how?
All right. So, I have to say this. I just need to be honest and say I love my wife. I am going to support her on her birthday, which is this Saturday. When I saw that the first week of the season corresponded with her birthday, there was part of me that was a bit dismayed as to what I was going to do because I've been looking forward to this season, the SEC playing for so long. But, it's family. I'm going to do what I have to do.
Yeah,
I'm not going to ruin the rest of the season.
Calendar.
That's true.
Before dates were on all our phones, you could put an X on the calendar and make them think that it was a day earlier or a day later. But
yeah, well, we've been married quite a while. And so every 7-ish years, you're going to run into a situation where if your spouse has a birthday in the fall, it's going to come across a Saturday. But the last time that this happened, when her birthday fell on a Saturday, she was actually out of town on work. And so we weren't there in the same space anyway, so I still got to watch a lot of football. So it's been like over a decade since I've had this predicament. So I am sad that I won't be with everybody on the Zoom call and the Zoom tailgating on Saturday, but got to do what you got to do. Going to support the family. So I will be out of pocket more than I would usually be, especially for the first week of football. But I'm still going to, in my mind and probably on my phone, constantly be thinking about what's going on and checking scores. So as much as I'm not going to be in a traditional pregame situation this weekend, I'm going to make up for it for the following weekend.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. Priorities, I get it.
Yeah.
This week, I'm going to be watching the game, hosting that virtual tailgate. I'm going to attempt to make hot wing pizza. I believe we talked about it here on the podcast a couple weeks ago. I got to figure that out, but I'm going to make some wings and then put them as a topping on the pizza, much like kind of a barbecue chicken, but I'm going to use wing sauce. Also, we were on vacation last week, and my wife's aunt made these brownies, and instead of regular oil, whatever, she used an orange-infused oil.
Ooh.
So if you've ever had like a chocolate-covered orange or those chocolate orange candies, that was this in a brownie.
Sweet.
And she didn't have a brownie pan, So she used a cupcake tin. And so it was like those little personal sized round. It was so soft and just delicious with that hint of orange. So my wife's going to try to make those, and hopefully there'll be some left over on Saturday as well. But I'm excited about this virtual tailgate. First time doing it. Absolutely. I think it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
If we can't be at a real tailgate, we'll just make do with what we got.
All right. So I've really been thinking through this this buffalo chicken pizza idea, and I've come up with when I do my recipe and try it here soon. I'm going to do it. I'm gonna try to tweak it to make sure that I'm getting the best flavor that I can. So I've realized that what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the pizza and put everything down on there except for the 2 sauces for me. And so when I put it in the oven, I will put a little buffalo sauce on it just so that chicken absorbs that flavor. Yeah. Then when it comes out of the oven, another round of the buffalo sauce, and then maybe either ranch or blue cheese to top it off, fresh out of the oven, so you don't burn that cheese or that ranch there. So that's going to be my idea that I'm going to play with in a couple of weeks. Is that similar to what you got going on?
I like it. Yeah, I'm going to make the wings Saturday morning and have those going all day, and then make the pizza. Pull the wing meat off of it, lay it on pizza.
Yes.
Probably do cheese on top of that. And then
that's next layer right there, man.
I'm going to drizzle ranch on it. Don't know if I'm going to drizzle ranch on the whole pizza or just my slices. We'll see what my wife wants to do. But that's going to be the idea.
That's brilliant, man. I'm jealous, and again, I'm hungry now. We need to. Apparently, I need to go have a snack because whether we're talking about our QT bracket tournament or pre-gaming, I'm ravenous at this point.
Well, it's week 1, baby. Let's go. So
yes, sir.
Be sure to follow us on social media at TSIOPod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com. Check out what we got there. We still have our Tailgating 101 cheat sheet. Join our Pick'em League. Join our virtual tailgate. All of that is on our website. Also, you can see these podcasts as video cast on YouTube, so find us there as well. But it's week 1. I'm so excited. All I can say, Chris, is roll Vols.
In this season, I will say it back to you. Roll Vols, baby. Yeah.